Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here with us for the Lunch and Learn with Lonnie Riley to talk to us about some of the exciting things happening in Lynch, Kentucky, and also help us to dream up possibilities, internship ideas, etc. Lonnie's been here the last 3 years, and we've sent actually several students have gone down to visit Lonnie and Belinda. Belinda's in the back. Wave your hand, Belinda. So Lonnie, Belinda, in Lynch, Kentucky. Who here has gone to visit them? Okay. See several hands. I know some have actually sung at their church. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing to see, and I've had some students say this to me. After coming back from Lynch, Kentucky, they said, wow, that was probably the most impactful experience that I've had during my seminary time. Because they get to see God at work in incredible ways, inside the walls of the church, but also outside. So Lonnie and Belinda, they're going to tell their story here a bit. But it's just been a pleasure to see their faithfulness moving into a coal mining town that was basically rusting, decaying. And they've incubated 11 different businesses. And actually, as I'm talking to Lonnie here, they've got 3 more businesses in mind. So the business 3 idea that Chuck was talking about earlier, with the church in the center of incubating businesses and thriving and flourishing in the community, they're doing that. It's about a 4-hour drive from here. So it's a day trip, you can do it. And they're open to internships and people to visit. But it's just a pleasure to have them back with us because they're embodying a lot of things that we're talking about. And what we'll do is just ask Lonnie and Belinda to share a little bit about their experience there. And then we'll open up to questions about what you heard. And if you don't have questions, they have some for you. So, but at the beginning, just kind of keep finishing up your meal as Lonnie and Belinda share with us. Can we welcome Lonnie to
Well, I'm honored to be here. I'm not quite as eloquent as some. I'm just an ordinary mountain guy. The Lord has just blessed us to be educated and sent us around the world in mission work. And in 1999 took us back home to Lynch, Kentucky, where my wife grew up. If you have a geographical idea of what Kentucky looks like, I'm from Hazard. That's right near where Lynch is now. But I want to kind of follow up on a different passage of Scripture that was read this morning about, I always have to log into this, about the one who was delivered the talents. And that was a great, to me, a great passage, and it's one, I take mine from Luke, which is the same conversation. And but 2 interesting things that I want to mention, that he gave 3 months' salary to these people, and he asked them to engage that in the community, and when he returned, he would call for them to come back. And the question came to me, where did they get the 3 months' salary? Did they work for that, or where did they get the talents? Where did the talents come from? Obviously, the answer to that would be the talents came from God. God gave them the talents, right? Use these, which I have given you, Jesus said, and I'll come back. And then when he came back, he inquired of these people in Luke 19. And here's what he said to them. I have given you 10 minas, or 3 months' pay, to another 5, to another 1. And then we returned, he said, you have done well, you who have the 10 and you who have the 5. And here's what struck me. Now that you've been faithful with the 10 that I've given you, I will make you ruler over 5 cities. 10 cities. I said to the Lord, I don't really desire to be a ruler over anything, particularly a city. Would you? But that's what God said. And when I looked at the impact of what God does, it does multiply itself into different cities, in different ways. So when Belinda and I came back, I have an economics minor. I'm not a business person per se. I appreciate guys like Dr. Chuck who formulate these ideas. But basically everything that he shared in chapel is what Belinda and I are experiencing in a rural setting, not in an urban setting. And so I just want to share some of those with you, and then give you an opportunity to ask us questions if you may. Everything that you will see here, God literally has given us. Let's see if I can get that to work. Okay, somebody with some IT stuff might help me out here. Is that not supposed to?
Don't you hate that?
There it is. Let's just take, for instance, I'll just give you an idea of how we operate. At any given time in eastern Kentucky, we have 40 to 50 staff and employees. And to me, it's kind of exciting to see that grow in different ways. The Black Mountain Exchange, for instance, is our grocery store and gas station that we have in town. In fact, it is the only one in town. Now, this was vacant for a number of years, and we're in the process, in the business model that we have is going to be very different than you probably will experience, because we don't have financing to do these things. We don't go in debt for what we receive. We just wait on the Lord. And so just to give you an example of how this works, a number of years ago, the owner of this business came to me and said, "Mr. Riley, would you want to buy this business?" I said, "Well, how much you want for it?" They said $150,000. I said, "No, I wouldn't be interested. In fact, I can't even pray that way. Because the Lord has me praying for so many other things, that's not on my radar list." So they sell it to another owner. 2 years later, the second owner comes back to me and said, "Mr. Riley, would you like to buy this business?" I said, "How much you want for it?" $75,000. I said, "Nope, I'm not at liberty to even pray for that." So they sold it to the second one. Third time, they came back again and said, "Mr. Riley, would you like to buy this business?" I said, "How much you want for it?" Here we go again, kind of idea. They said, "I want $35,000 for it." I said, "Well, I can pray about that now." And so we began to pray. Now, it would be very simple to go get a loan for this, because the equipment and things that were in it was self-contained. It was fully operational at the time. Just didn't have any product in it. It would have been very easy to go to the bank and get a loan for that, and you'd be on your way. But I said, "Well, I tell you what, I don't have $35,000, but if the Lord gives it to me, I'll be back to see you, and I'll pray about this." And so she called me back about a week later and said, "Would you give me $30,000?" I said, "Listen, ma'am, I'm not trying to get you to lower the price. I just don't have any money, and if the Lord gives me the money, I'll be with you." And an investor came on a mission trip from Indiana, and he looked at the facility, and he looked at me, and he said, "Tell me what you're praying for." Now, if you don't know what you're praying for, you may already have it and not know it. You got to know what you're praying for. So I said, "Well, let me show you what I'm praying for." I took him down and showed him this called Miners Market, and he said, "Well, how much they want for it?" I said, $30,000. And so he goes home, calls me back, says, "Call that lady back and see if she'll take 20 for it." I said, "Okay, if she takes 20, will you buy it? I don't want to own the property. I just want to use it for the kingdom." Okay? It's not about getting the property. It's just about using something for the kingdom of God. He said, "Yes." So I called her back. She dropped it down to 28, so that's all I can take. So he sent me a check for $30,000. And we purchased this building and property with that. And now it's being used extensively. This year, now we live in a poverty town. The population is probably 700, okay? But we have a larger population center. It's just that little town. We have 3 connecting towns. And this little, right here, will gross over 6 digits this year. And that, along with our coffee shop, will probably do $250,000 in a poverty town. I would never have imagined that. But God sees so much more than we see. Let me see if I can go back to the, how do I get to the home page here? Let me go up. We have several things that I'll tell you about. Some I'll show you, some you've been in. This is our coffee shop. Our coffee shop is called Lamp House Coffee. Eric and Sissy run that for us. We have 21 full-time staff right now, and they serve a great variety of ways. This is our coffee shop, and in the coffee shop we have hired 21 people so far. And all the Lord told us to do was create a place where folks could come in and get a cup of coffee and hear the message of hope in Jesus. Because you're right, you've got to intertwine Christ with what you do, or else you're just a business model. And that's fine if you want to do it that way. God will let you do it either way. But we want to incorporate who Jesus is in that. So we've had folks come to know Christ in our center. Our church is growing at an alarming rate as a result of this coffee shop that people travel from all over the country just to see. Now this coffee shop, we're doing consulting work now with 4 other states of how to develop a Lamp House coffee shop. I couldn't imagine that. And part of this same idea is also now transferred internationally. We'll soon be creating a partnership with the Bahamas, and they're going to start with the same idea in creating, because they have the same problem we have, but in a different culture. Well, God knows how to work in cultures, doesn't He, in an effective way. And so they were bringing an entourage to our place, and then we're going there to teach them some principles about how to begin new work. So our coffee shop now has extended itself in a myriad of ways. And just last week we met with a group from Las Vegas, Nevada, that wants to start a coffee shop like ours in a Christian context. And they use it in a variety of ways. So that's just a little bit about what we do. You can see on the right here the number of things that we have. Our most recent thing is our Agribusiness Center. And our Agribusiness Center is where we use old buildings. God can repurpose anything, can He not? He repurposed this, and why not an old building? So people are giving us old buildings, and we're repurposing them. Now we have a mushroom growing facility that you see. The Lord has sent us design engineers, and we have designed a harvesting system that now can be duplicated with other people in our area. And we are doing the Farm to Table program in Kentucky, if you're familiar with that, where we sell to local businesses in Lexington and Louisville and those kind of things. And I met with a lady, and she said, "We want to buy your mushrooms." I said, "Great, how many do you want to buy?" Hang on to your seat. She said 300,000 pounds of mushrooms. Can you imagine how many mushrooms that is? And so I went back to our agribusiness director and I said, if we ran at, full capacity in the facility we have, how many mushrooms can we grow in a year? How many pounds of mushroom? And he said 9,000 pounds. And that's a pretty big facility that we have. I don't know if it shows any more pictures or not. Yeah, that's the building it's in right there on the right. And I said, well, that means then that we're going to have to incorporate other business people who want to start their own business and have an old building on their property that's falling down, that we can now send our engineers and say, let us help you design this so that you can create your own business and you can make your own money in the same context, because it's just spreading the entrepreneurship to other people who can't see what they can do. So somebody has to kind of guide them along the way. In addition to that building, we're working with the abandoned mine land people right now, and it looks like, and they came to us, by the way, because I never ask people for things. I just ask the Father, and He provides what we need. That's a different model, but it's easy for us not to try to plan something and it fail, because we've had 25 ministries begin in eastern Kentucky. Not a single one of them has stopped. And it's because that we didn't create it. Because what God creates, He maintains. in His designed form. God creates it, He maintains it, so we follow that pattern with the things that are in Lynch, Kentucky. And so they came to me and said, we want to help you, what are you doing? So I told them, and they said, well, we'd like to give you some money. How many people has had the government come to you and say, we want to give you money? Unrestricted, okay? That means you can share Christ, you can do anything. So pretty soon we'll get, huh?
Usually it's the other way with the government. They're wanting our money instead of giving us theirs.
Yes, yes. We're giving them enough, they should give us some back occasionally, right? Yeah. But we soon will get a grant for $400,000 to $500,000. In addition to that, I'm the chairman of the broadband committee in our town, and we have a broadband board, and they'll give us an additional $700,000 in order to put wireless broadband throughout our entire city. And that way, we have 75 people already signed up to go to work in their home with folks like Apple, Xbox, Google, that'll be coming down to do a job fair just so they can hire these people in town. Now, we all do this in a Christian context, okay? Because everybody knows in town that we're a Christian. And if there's a business that we create, it's going to be a Christian business. One other thing, then I'll stop and let you ask some questions if you want. I didn't come to bore you, just to tell you a little bit about what was happening. I'll give you an update, basically. Here's our, well, we've had quite a few recent, I don't have a timeline on all these, but the Lord gave us a former high school, and it had weightlifting equipment inside, and the state policeman came to me and said, would you consider opening a fitness gym in town, because we have to travel some miles to do that. Now, I'm the kind of guy that just connects the dots. Here's a guy asked me to do something, God just given me a bunch of weightlifting equipment, so we open up a Faithfully Fit gym that kind of looks like this. And we have 2 employees in there right now, and we charge them, I think it's $20 a month now. Planet Fitness kind of run us out of business a little bit. So we went from $30 to $20 a month, and we have had so far 194 people sign up to take participation in that gym. It's pretty incredible to me that all we're doing is just kind of connecting the dots and doing what God wants, and all of a sudden, now everybody that comes in this gym will be listening to Christian exercise music, and the folks in there will be sharing Christ with them in a viable way. We have an elementary school football team, we have the high school ladies softball team that visits our gym. What other opportunity could you have to share Christ in a setting and make money at the same time? And so, I got to tell you one more thing, and then I said that a while ago, didn't I? Like Paul says, and finally, brethren, and wrote 2 more chapters. That's usually that's usually the way it goes. I'm trying to find that our retreat center, but I don't see that on there. I'll have to find my guy. Okay. Well, I don't see it. Let me show you a little bit about, we have a 60-acre lake right there, and so we decided that we were going to use these lakes for, let's see if I can pull that up. And so we have developed cabin rentals, and our cabin rentals will rival anything in Gatlinburg. If you've been to Gatlinburg, and we have 4 cabins, and we have a 30-bed bunkhouse that we rent out for retreats and so forth. And all this is just job creation and economic development. Now, our retreat center is our 89-room retreat center that was a former hospital that was donated to us. I'm telling you, God gives you stuff. And if you use it wisely and you become stewards of it, then God gives you more stuff. That's what we've experienced. And so He gave us this room, this former hospital, and I think it was bringing in about $125,000 a year through this retreat center. Well, that allowed us to fund other beginnings like Shekinah Village, our youth camp and resort, and like the stables at Creekside Glen that now has 24 horses, 20 acres, and we do camps that will house probably 1,000 youth this year and 3,000 people overall. Well, we don't advertise, they just show up. And it's pretty incredible how that happens. So that's just a few of the things we do. Let me stop here and see if you have any questions we can discuss and dialogue. Dr. Chuck's here, Dr. Moon's here, and so we can have a great dialogue and discussion about what your idea of perception may be. And let's see who has the first question. Okay, now that one's already subsided, who has the second one? I'm sorry?
Do you have any failures?
We have not. We have not. I say that but to the glory of the Lord. There has not been one thing that started that has failed. Our coffee shop, it's a world-class coffee shop. Our baristas have been trained by world-class people. And somebody said, how are you going to expect to make it in a town that's poverty, charging $4 a cup, Starbucks prices for a cup of coffee? I said, well, the only thing I know is God put it into play and He'll have to maintain it. And that coffee shop this year will go over 6 digits in that. It's really productive. And hiring people and sharing Jesus, and that's the name of the game. Can you think of maybe I'm missing something, hon? That's my hun back there in the back. she keeps me on track. We haven't had any failures that I know of, have we? Not with the businesses, no. Personally, we experience failures because we don't always obey the Lord, but business-wise, we haven't had. But our model is so different.
You might tell them about how many people come to visit the area, though, that sustains these businesses.
Yeah, we have a number of mission teams that come in from across the country and around the world. They come to visit Lynch just to see what God's doing, and they help in the maintenance of that. I mean, where else are they going to go to get a cup of coffee in Lynch? We're the only one there. Or where are they going to go to buy gas? We're the only gas station in town. And we have a trout stream nearby. We also offer outdoor outfitting equipment for rent. Where are they going to go get that? Well, it's just indigenous to the culture, basically. And we have about 5,000 a year that visit our town. So the Tourism Commission a number of years ago said, you are doing more for tourism than the Tourism Commission in your area. And I said, well, that's God, because we're not doing anything. We don't call churches to say, will you come and help us? We just let God bring them. It's amazing to me. But did that answer your question, son?
You did.
Long answered.
Because the odds are that only 2 of 8 will actually succeed and last longer than 2 years.
2 of 8 businesses?
2 of 8 startup businesses.
I never heard that statistic. I'm glad I never heard that one.
8 failures and 2 will succeed.
Wow. Make a note of that, babe. That's good stuff. Yes.
Ronnie, could you tell us about how you disciple and mentor people within your businesses?
Yes.
What that might look like?
Well, I think my role now has changed significantly from those early days because when you have 21 employees, you have to teach them. Psalm 103 verse 7 says this, God taught Moses his ways, but his deeds to the children of Israel. And what Moses was basically doing was helping the people that he was overseeing, 70 some of them, he was helping them understand what was occurring in their life with the ways of God. And basically that's what I do to the staff that we have. For instance, we have 24 horses, and Drew Baldwin, seminary graduate from Southeastern Seminary, he's been on staff with us a while. He called me up and said, Lonnie, you got to come up here and take a look at this. So I go up. He said, we don't have any hay for our horses. We have 24 horses, okay? We don't have any hay for our horses. I said, well, it's a little late to tell me right now, you know, but I'll come take a look at it anyway. So we get up in the hay loft, and I said, well, there is some hay here, so we can sweep this up and feed it to our horses this evening. So I left, and well, no, before I left, I said, you got to answer this question, Drew. Whose horses are these? Are they your horses? No. Are they mine? No, they're not mine. I said, whose are they? They said, they're God's. I said, well, do you suspect that God knows how to take care of his own? Now, from his point of view, I had to say, Drew, if God gave us 24 horses that we need to bury because they starved to death, would you be a wise steward in doing that? Would you want to do that for God if God gave you that role? Whatever role God gives to you, you got to be willing to take. And I said, so we will pray and ask God to provide us and show us what he has in store. If it is that we bury a horse, then we will be glad to honor God and be a steward in that. So we prayed, I left. He calls me back at 6 o'clock in the evening, says, Lonnie, you got to come and look at this. So I go out to the barn again, thinking I've got a dead horse. I mean, here I told him about it, now I've got a dead horse. So we get up in the barn loft and there's 400 bales of hay. I said, Drew, where did these bales come from? He said, it was the most amazing thing that people would drive into our farm and say, God instructed me to come by and bring you these bales of hay out of nowhere. It was incredible to me. And to see 400 bales of hay, and then what Drew did actually was fall down in the runway of that barn and begin to weep before God. And here's what he said. He said, never have I seen God do something like this. Now, that's what leadership should do. Teach them the ways of God and help them connect what's happening with what God wants. See, Drew will never go back to living like he used to live. He can't, because his life's been changed when God showed up in such a miraculous way. And I'm glad he said it this morning, and I'll quote him again, Dr. Chuck, if you don't mind. It was revealing to me. 39 of the 40 miraculous acts in the book of Acts were in the marketplace. But we're wanting them to occur in the church, which more than likely they will not. And that was revealing to me. But it's right where people should be. Learn how to take what's inside the church outside the church. Another long answer to a short question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You said there's 21 staff people, but you're talking about 20-something different operations here, and you talked about more people than 20. So is it just staff people of the ministry, and then the other ministries have their own employees, or how does that, there's more people than?
Yeah, we kind of divided our ministry up. It kind of got so large. We divided our ministry up into 4 different campuses, and then I put assigned people who were qualified to oversee that campus, and I deal basically with the 4 people, and each one of them would have their own employees. I don't deal with all the employees. They got their own application system. They got their own interview process. They've got all that, but they have to come to me for the final yes, okay kind of thing. At this point, they do. And so we do have 21 staff members that are full-time. Now, we don't pay any of them. You say, well, how in the world, how many people did God feed in the desert with manna? 2 million? I mean, what's 25? See, we make this hard. We make it so hard. My wife and I have been living there for 19 years. We've never received a salary and still do not to this day. And so whatever God gives us, we live on. And it's been more than adequate. You can tell I haven't missed too many meals, right? And so God is more than capable of taking care of 25 people. And they come with that mindset that God is able to take care of them. And when they come with that mindset, God does take care of them. And then we hire local people. These volunteer staff come from all across America. Many states come there and stay. But our local people is the ones that we hire, 21, 25, whatever, to actually run the business, and we train them in the model. Some of them have gone on to college, some are in Berea College, some have come through our thing, or here now at Asbury University, that we will meet probably tomorrow when we speak in chapel. So it's a good thing. Did that help? Did I answer that question for you? Okay.
Well, they're kind of self-supporting in different ways. It is through how the Lord provides, or different ones that send stuff regularly, or they're retired, self-supporting, or a combination of all of them.
We don't have any retirees, do we, on our staff? We don't have any retirees.
Yes, Bob and Teresa are retired.
Oh, they are? I didn't know that. So we have one couple, and we don't, if, for instance, a church invites one of our staff to come and speak in their church and share their ministry, we do not permit them to ask the church for anything. You just go there and share what the Lord's doing. That's what you're about. You're not about raising money. We aren't. We're not against fundraisers and raising funds. We're not anti that. That's just not our model. Other folks do it quite well. We haven't done it quite well. But God provides for us in different ways, and same way with the staff. They're not permitted to go out and raise their own support. They pray for that support, and God supplies it in amazing ways. I have to tell you, it's a different model. You just can't see it every day. Somebody else have a question? Yes, sir.
Do you think that your business model flourishes because of the small population? Or do you think that it could work in an urban environment as well?
We have had folks from Korea, South Korea, from the Philippines, from China. Where's the other country? The Bahamas. And there's one other country that I'll think about in a minute. All of them have been to Lynch to look at our model. And they say that they feel the principles that are at work in Lynch can change any community, any nation, anywhere. And so I don't try to put on the whys of it. I just say if God can work in a town like Lynch or a town like Mason, God can do that anywhere. I think the key is the one person who has a passion and heart to see God do something outside the box. You know, that's what I feel. But do I know that to be sure? No. But soon I'll find out, because I've been invited to Illinois to speak to Rochelle, is that the name of the town? And the mayor and city council to share the principles of what God is doing in Lynch with that community for transformation. That's part of what my next subject is going to be about, faith and transformation. And I'll be going to Branson, Missouri to do the same thing. That's the reason they called us to the Bahamas, to do the same thing. And so it's like now there's a new phase of ministry that we haven't seen. Taking the principles that are at work in Lynch or in Mason, which exactly what you said is what we do, which is amazing to me. And I just hadn't put it in that context. To see that happen in other cities across America and around the world would be incredible to me. And that wasn't on my radar screen, to see something like that. But I think principally it could work anywhere. Would you say? Principally it could. Anything you want to add to that, Doc? You're free to do that.
I'm just really enjoying listening. I think this is an amazing prototype or experiment that you brought to life here. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, I'm really wanting to hear what all of those principles are. And it sounds like you may be sharing some of those later, like a chapter or whatever, but I would just love to learn how you put those together.
Well,
What God's shown
I've
us.
learned from you a lot this morning, so it's a good thing. I appreciate that.
There's a documentary movie tomorrow
I'm
at
sorry?
11 o'clock. The Only Cookie Dough
Yeah.
DVD's going to show us. That'll describe the context and what happened there. Make more of it fleshed out.
Yeah, they're going to show that documentary that they made, the Sentinel Group out of Seattle, Washington, and the International Fellowship of Transformation Partners in Cape Town, South Africa, came and filmed this thing over 3 years, and they put it into a documentary that'll be shown after chapel tomorrow, isn't it? Is that in the same place?
It's 11 o'clock tomorrow in RE214 at Asbury University.
What does that mean? RE214? Is that like some Star Wars formula, or what is that?
Yeah, so the classroom that's right next to Hughes Auditorium, so. Right
Oh,
after
okay.
chapel, it's right next to it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks to Eric, by the way, for Eric Harbin for being our great host. And he'll be our host today, and we have Brother Sam, I think, tomorrow. So we're excited to be back on campus here. I don't know how long we're supposed to go. We got a few.
Few more minutes. Could you tell us a little bit, Lonnie, if there were opportunities for a student who wanted to do like an internship in the
Yes.
summertime or somehow engage in that way?
Yes, we do have summer internships that we kind of coordinate with the college or seminary classes and when they end and when they begin, to give them some time at the front end and some time at the back end so they can enjoy home life a little bit before they go back to college or seminary. And we do have interns. We do have housing available. Some transportation, not a lot. One of the requirements is we ask them to bring their own vehicle if they can, and then we work out the details of what you'll be doing according to what God has put in your heart, because I think passion is the key. If you develop those people and release them to let them go, it's amazing what God will do with them.
So how do they start that process? Do they?
We have an application process online. If you get on Marizzo.com and look under the application, you can just kind of fill that out and send it in. And we have a operations officer, Drew Baldwin. We kind of go through those things, and then we choose. We can't take a lot of them, but we can take, maybe 10, because we have 5 campuses like that that's spread over like 6 counties. So we have a wide variety of things available to interns, whether it's horses or whether it's gated communities, tennis courts, swimming pools. I mean, it's a wide variety of things that God's brought together. So get online. If you want to come be an intern at Marizzo Center, you're certainly welcome to. And if everything works out, that you may learn a few things and we can learn a few things from you. So it'll be a mutual thing. Who was it said, I never met a man from whom I couldn't learn? That's kind of where I am. I'm always learning from people. Never arrived. Any other questions we have? Well, thanks for letting me bore you a little while. Thanks for coming in and participating in it. Bye.